Howdy, Hot Shots Dividend Daddy here, your favorite not a financial advisor with not financial advice. Ooh, ULTY went up today, and I did not have an order in to buy it at the lows of $6.05 today, and I feel like I missed out. I seriously do not like seeing ULTY go down because obviously I don't want to lose money on my principal. I don't like seeing ULTY go up because I feel like I'm missing out. I don't want it to move. I just want it to stay right at the $6 range, okay? Because I didn't get any shares today, if it doesn't dip back down to $6.05, I'm gonna miss a distribution on those shares this week. If you wanna get a distribution on shares that you buy during the week, you have to buy them by Wednesday. Thursday is the ex-dividend date each week, and your payment is on Friday, meaning that your cost basis is immediately reduced by 10 cents. Now, on Thursday, if the shares dip down 10 cents, I'll be buying more. But if they don't dip down the full 10 cents, I'm essentially paying more for the shares after the distribution has come out than I would have for the shares and then subtract the distribution that week. So I really am going to start targeting Mondays, probably Mondays for my purchases. That way it's early in the week. People haven't started buying it in anticipation of the distribution yet, but I am getting the distribution that same week that I bought it. So I think I'm going to try to be buying shares on Monday. I did buy 100 shares within the last couple days. I don't know. I don't really sit and track every day. I put an order in every day. I always have an order in for 100 shares close to whatever the share price is, just a couple cents below, hoping that it dips down and fills my order. And then I have my waterfall purchases set up that I told you about before, where I started off trying to get 75 shares, I think it is, at $5.96, and then 100 shares at $5.94. And I would have to go through there and write them all down, but I ladder up my purchases as the price goes lower so that I can dollar cost average on the way down if it does take a big dip and pick up shares when it hits. I don't want to just wait to see the price go down there and then try to place an order because I may be asleep or I may be at work or, I'm not sitting there glued to the screen all day long. That's one of the reasons why it pays to have somebody managing your funds. And so I don't mind paying the fee in ULTY to have that professional management, have somebody that is sitting there watching it, have somebody that's doing all the research on which stocks to buy that have enough implied volatility to generate a good enough premium to give me that high income that ULTY is spitting out. Okay, I don't mind paying that fee. A lot of people are on here and they're saying, well, why would you pay them a fee when you could just buy the options yourself? Well, that would be very time consuming. It would take a lot of effort and intellect to manage. And not only that, it would be very expensive. I don't think these people are thinking things through. I went to GPT because I didn't want to sit down and do all the math. And I asked them, what are the top 25 holdings that ULTY has right now? And it listed every one of the stocks. Then I went in there and I said, if I were to buy 100 shares of each of these stocks, how much would it cost me? And the answer was $306,000. And that wouldn't even be the same weighting that ULTY has, because ULTY has a small percentage of each stock, but they're different percentages. If I were to go out and want to sell covered calls, I would have an equal amount of each of those companies if I bought 100 shares of each company for $306,000. So in order to get the same diversification that I'm getting with ULTY for $6, it would cost me $306,000. So that's something you guys need to think about when you're talking about ULTY's fees and the fee for having it wrapped in an ETF, is you're getting that instant diversification. If you only had $10,000 to put in and you went out and bought a $100 stock, you'd have to buy $10,000 worth of that stock to sell one covered call. And then if that one stock eats shit, well, you're going to eat shit too, because it's going to go down and that's going to be your entire holdings. If you buy one share of ULTY at $6, you're getting the equivalent of $306,000 of diversification when it comes to buying shares to sell covered calls on. That's a huge benefit. Everybody knows that you should be diversified. Well, each of your positions can be diversified too if you're utilizing ETFs. So I own individual stocks. I'm not going to say that I don't. But when it comes to the covered calls, it really is striking a chord with me that we get that kind of diversification at such a low price. I have some covered calls out right now, but the cheapest shares that I have covered calls on, I think, is Lumen. And I only have that because when Trump came out and said he was going to put $500 billion towards AI infrastructure, I thought, well, the semiconductors should do pretty well, and Lumen's pretty low priced. I've bought and sold that one before. I've sold covered calls and puts on that one before. So I bought a couple hundred shares, not a big amount, but a couple hundred shares. Well, actually, I think I entered those positions with a put, and then it went down. And now I've sold covered calls on them because when it got back up close to $5, I sold covered calls, and now it's in the toilet again. So I'm just keeping the premium from those covered calls, which I used to buy some covered call funds. So even $1,000, I think, that I have invested in Lumen right now still is all wrapped up in Lumen, which is in the toilet. If I put that same $1,000 in one of these covered call funds, I'd be getting tons of diversification. So if you don't want to pay I'd have to look. I don't even know what the fee structure is. It's somewhere around 1% probably in ULTY. If you don't want to pay that 1%, you're not going to get the scalability that they have. You're not going to get the diversification that they have. You're probably not going to get the price on options that they have. I bet you they're paying a very, very low fee and low spread on the options compared to what you and I are. So you may very well be saving the management fee in ULTY just because you're not buying the contracts or selling the contracts when you're selling your covered calls or buying them back. So I actually think that the fee is a great bargain in ULTY. I'm going to keep putting money in ULTY. I'm going to dedicate fewer and fewer funds to selling my own covered calls and dedicate more and more of my portfolio to these covered call funds because I'm pretty happy with the way that it's going. I'm really, really happy with the diversification. It's getting me exposure to covered call premiums from stocks that I would not go out and pay $17,000 for to sell a covered call. And so there's a lot of benefit there beyond just surface level, oh, we're getting this income. We're getting this income on a big range of expensive stocks that most likely most of us cannot afford to do on our own. So think about that, D-Gens.